Right. Stop what you are doing. If you are sitting somewhere in the United Kingdom right now or anywhere in the world where you have heard of the British pound, I need 60 seconds of your time. Because what I am about to show you has been sitting in British history for over 200 years. And most people walk right past it without a second glance. We are talking about gold sovereigns. British gold sovereigns. The most recognized gold coin on the planet. The coin that quite literally built the British Empire. And right now in this gold bull market, certain rare sovereigns are doing something that regular bullion gold simply cannot do. They are outperforming the market. By a wide margin, gold is heading toward $15,000 per ounce. That is not a rumor. That is not clickbait. Serious analysts, serious investors, serious wealth managers from London to New York to Sydney are saying it. And when gold hits that number, these specific rare sovereigns are not just going to go up with it. They are going to leave it behind. So if you have ever inherited old coins from a grandparent, or spotted a sovereign in an antique shop, or simply wondered whether there is a smarter way to play this gold rush, stay right here, because this video is for you. Let's go. Hello and welcome back. And if you are new here, brilliant. You picked a great day to find this channel. Now look. I know there is a lot of noise about gold right now. Every financial publication from the Financial Times to the Wall Street Journal is running gold stories. And honestly, most of them are saying the same thing. Gold is up. Inflation is real. Buy gold. But today we are going somewhere much more interesting than that, because there is a specific type of British gold coin that is not just tracking the gold price. It is beating it. And has been for decades. And as gold climbs toward $15,000 per ounce, the gap between what these coins are worth and what regular gold is worth is only going to get wider. We are talking about rare gold sovereigns. The coin of the British Empire. The coin that was accepted in every port, every market, every country on earth for over a century. And a coin that's marked British collectors and international investors are quietly accumulating right now before the mainstream catches on. Quick favor before we start, hit subscribe and give this video a like. It helps this channel reach more people who need to hear this. Alright, let us get into it. Right. So first, why the gold sovereign? Why this specific coin above everything else? Because the gold sovereign is not just a coin. It is the most trusted, most recognized, most universally accepted gold coin in the history of the world. That is not an exaggeration. That is just fact. The modern gold sovereign has been produced by the Royal Mints since 1817. Think about what Britain was in 1817. The most powerful empire the world had ever seen. And this coin, this small, beautiful, 22-karat gold coin, was the financial heartbeat of that empire. It was accepted as payment in India, in Australia, in Canada, in Africa, in the Middle East, across the entire British Commonwealth and beyond. Merchants in Istanbul would accept a sovereign. Traders in Bombay would accept a sovereign. Farmers in Queensland would accept a sovereign. This was the closest thing the world has ever had to a truly universal currency. And here is the thing that makes sovereigns so compelling for British investors today specifically. In the United Kingdom, gold sovereigns are CGT exempt, capital gains tax exempt. Meaning if you buy a sovereign and it goes up in value, which it will, especially as gold climbs toward $15,000, you do not pay capital gains tax on the profit. For British investors, that is enormous. That is a legal tax advantage that gold bars and gold ETFs simply do not offer. But beyond the tax advantage, beyond the history, beyond the recognition, there is the numismatic angle. The rare sovereigns, the specific dates, mint marks, and varieties that command premiums far above the gold content. And those premiums are growing right now at an extraordinary rate. That is what we are focusing on today. Alright, let us talk about specific rare sovereigns. And we are starting with one of the most beloved series in British numismatic history. The Victoria Young Head Sovereigns. Minted from 1838 to 1887. During the reign of Queen Victoria, arguably the most significant monarch in British history. Now the young head design shows Victoria exactly as she looked when she came to the throne. Young. Regal. Determined. This portrait was designed by William Way, the most celebrated coin engraver Britain has ever produced. And it captures something about early Victorian Britain that later portraits simply do not have. That sense of a young nation at the beginning of something extraordinary. The reverse during much of this period shows the magnificent Street Georgian, the dragon design by Benedetto Pistrucci. And honestly, if you have never looked closely at a Pistrucci Street George, you are missing one of the great artistic achievements in the history of British coinage. The detail is extraordinary. The dragon, the horse, the dynamic movement of the whole composition. It is breathtaking on a coin this small. Now, why are these sovereigns gaining value so fast right now? Because they are Victorian. They carry the weight of British history at its most powerful. And because certain dates and mint marks within this series are genuinely rare. The Melbourne Mint issues from Australia marked with an M are particularly sought after. The Sydney Mint issues with an S. These colonial branch mint sovereigns were struck in British territories around the world and carry a story that connects Britain to its empire in a very tangible way. British collectors go absolutely mad for them. In today's market, common-day young head sovereigns trade at a solid premium over gold spot. But the rare dates and colonial mint marks? Those are trading at 2, 3, sometimes 5 times the value of the gold inside them. Coin type 2. And these mark a fascinating transition in both British coinage and British history. When Queen Victoria celebrated her Golden Jubilee in 1887, the Royal Mint issued a new portrait, the Jubilee head. And then in 1893, a final portrait, the old head, was introduced, showing Victoria as the elderly empress she had become. These later Victorian sovereigns are interesting because they capture the twilight of the Victorian era. Britain was still the most powerful nation on earth. The empire was at its height. But there was a sense, looking back now, that something extraordinary was coming to an end. The Jubilee head sovereigns from 1887 to 1892 are notable for several reasons. The portrait was controversial when it was released. Many British people felt it made Victoria look too old. There were complaints in the press. The design was actually changed just 5 years later because of the public reaction. And that controversy, that short production window, makes these coins more collectible today. The old head sovereigns from 1893 to 1901 are the final Victorian issues. And for British collectors, that final year 1901, the last sovereign struck during Victoria's reign, carries enormous emotional and historical weight. The year Victoria died. The end of an era that shaped the modern world. In today's gold market, Jubilee and old head sovereigns in high-grade condition are seeing serious price appreciation. British auction houses Spink, Baldwin's, DNW are reporting strong results for quality Victorian sovereigns across all series. And international buyers, particularly from the United States, Australia, and the Gulf states, are increasingly competing with British collectors for the best pieces. The demand is growing. The supply is fixed. You know what that means. Sovereign type 3. And this is where a lot of British collectors get very excited. The Edward V. II sovereigns. Minted from 1902 to 1910. During the reign of King Edward V. II, Victoria's son, the man who finally got the throne after waiting longer than almost any heir in British history. Edward's portrait on the sovereign was designed by George William de Saulles, and it is a strong, confident portrait that suits the Edwardian era perfectly. Britain in the early 1900s was rich, powerful, optimistic. The world's reserve currency ran through London. British banks financed railways on every continent, and the gold sovereign was at the center of it all. The reverse continues the magnificent Pistrucci Street Georgian, the dragon design. And in high-grade condition, an Edwardian sovereign with that reverse is genuinely one of the most beautiful coins you will ever hold. Now here is where Edward V. II sovereigns get really interesting for investors. The Ottawa Mint issues. Canada. The Ottawa Mint struck sovereigns from 1908 to 1919, and the 1908C is one of the most significant rarities in the entire sovereign series. Mintage was extremely limited. Surviving examples in anything above fine condition are genuinely rare. When one comes up at auction in Britain or Canada, collectors from both countries get very competitive very fast. The Perth Mint and Melbourne Mint Australia in issues from this period are also highly sought after. Edward V. II sovereigns with Australian mint marks carry that incredible connection between Britain and its most significant colony, a connection that Australian and British collectors both want to own a piece of. In today's market, common date Edward v. II sovereigns in about uncirculated condition, rate at healthy premiums. Heat 8s in Colonial mint marks and mint state condition. Entirely different conversation. Sovereign type 4. And for many British collectors and investors, this is the sweet spot. The George V sovereigns. Minted from 1911 to 1932. And this series matters for a reason that goes beyond collecting. George V sovereigns represent the last era of genuine circulation sovereigns. These coins were actually used as money. They were in people's pockets, in shop tills, in bank counters across Britain and the Empire. And then the First World War happened. Britain went off the gold standard. And the sovereign, for the first time in over a century, stopped circulating as everyday currency. The emotional resonance of that for British collectors is hard to overstate. These are the last coins that ordinary British people used as real money. The last physical connection between Britain and the gold standard that made the pound the world's reserve currency. The portrait of George V was designed by Sir Bertram McKenna, a brilliant Australian sculptor working in Britain. And the reverse? Still the Pistrucci Street George. Still magnificent. Now for investors, the George V series has some extraordinary rarities. The 1917 sovereign struck in London has a very low recorded mintage of survivors. The 1925 South Africa sovereign. The 1932 Pretoria issue, the final sovereign struck before production ceased for decades. These specific dates are the ones that serious British and international numismatists hunt for. And as gold climbs toward $15,000 per ounce, their premiums over spot are growing at a rate that makes pure gold bullion look pedestrian. The George V sovereign is where history, rarity, and investment performance come together. If you are a British collector looking for the best risk-adjusted entry point into rare sovereigns, this series deserves your serious attention. And finally, the fifth category. And this one is for the serious collector and investor who wants the absolute finest. Proof and specimen sovereigns. Special strikes made by the Royal Mint for presentation, for collectors, for coronation sets, for royal gifts. These are not regular circulation coins. They were struck with specially prepared dies on specially prepared plan cates to create a level of detail and finish that regular sovereigns simply cannot match. A proof sovereign has mirror-like fields to the flat areas of the coin and frosted, almost sculptural design elements. When you hold one under a light, the contrast between the brilliant background and the textured design is breathtaking. It looks more like a piece of jewelry than a coin. Proof sovereigns have been issued at various points throughout British history. Coronation years are always significant. The 1902 Edward V II proof. The 1911 George V proof. The 1937 George V I proof issued in extremely limited numbers for the coronation set. And the various Victorian proof issues that come up at British auction houses like Spink and Baldwin's and make collectors' hearts race when they appear. Why are these gaining value so fast right now? 3 reasons. First, the gold content is the same as a regular sovereign, so they benefit from the gold price rising toward $15,000. Second, the numismatic premium on top of that gold is growing as more collectors enter the market and fewer proof sovereigns become available. Third, and most importantly, they are beautiful. Genuinely, extraordinarily beautiful. And beautiful things, when they are also rare and made of gold, tend to hold and grow in value in ways that mundane assets simply cannot match. A proof sovereign from a significant year in outstanding condition is not just an investment. It is a piece of British history that you can hold in your hand. Right. So you know which sovereigns to look for. Now let us talk about how to actually identify the good ones. Because this is where a lot of British collectors go wrong. The first thing you need to understand, and I cannot stress this enough, is that condition drives value. A common date George V sovereign in fine condition might sell for a few % above gold spot. That same coin in uncirculated condition could sell for 20, 30, 40% above spot. And the Mint State 65 certified example? Even more. So what are you looking for? Luster first. On a high-grade sovereign that has never been cleaned or harshly handled, you will see original mint blue soft, silky sheen on the coin's surface. This is what the royal mint dyes imparted to the coin when it was struck. It survives only if the coin has been properly stored and handled. If you see it, it is a very good sign. Next, check for cleaning. An enormous number of British sovereigns have been cleaned at some point, often by well-meaning people who thought they were preserving the coin. Cleaning destroys luster and leaves hairlines, tiny scratches that catch the light at certain angles. Clean sovereigns trade at significant discounts in the British market. Full stop. Then check the mint mark. Turn the coin over and look just above the date on the reverse, or in some series below the horse's hoof. An M for Melbourne, S for Sydney, P for Perth, C for Ottawa, SA for Pretoria, I for Bombay. These mint marks change the value of the coin dramatically. A sovereign with a Colonial mint mark in high grade is worth considerably more than the same year from London. And finally, consider professional grading. PCGS and NGC both grade British sovereigns. A certified coin in a graded holder sells for more in Britain and internationally because buyers trust the grade. For any sovereign you think might be genuinely rare and valuable, certification is absolutely worth the investment. Practical time. Where do British collectors actually go to find these coins? The London auction houses first. Spink & Son in Bloomsbury, one of the oldest and most respected numismatic auction houses in the world, established in 1666. Baldwin's of St. James's, another London institution. Dick's, Noon on Web. These houses run regular sales that include quality British sovereigns at all price levels. Buying at auction gives you complete price transparency and access to coins that have been properly catalogued and described. The British Numismatic Trade Association dealers. The NTA members are bound by a code of conduct that protects British buyers. Look for the BNTA logo when buying from a dealer and you have a meaningful level of consumer protection. Coin fairs. The London Coin Fair at the Holiday in Bloomsbury. The York Coin Fair. The Birmingham Coin Fair. These events bring together dealers from across Britain and offer opportunities to handle coins before buying, something you simply cannot do online. And online. eBay UK has a significant numismatic market. The same rules apply as anywhere. Buy certified coins from sellers with strong feedback. Verify certification numbers. And if a price seems too good to be true, it probably is. What should you expect to pay in the current British market? Common date sovereigns in circulated condition trade at a modest premium over gold spot, typically 5 to 15%. Better grade examples carry higher premiums. Key dates and Colonial mint marks in high grade can command premiums of 50, 100, 200% or more over the gold value. And proof sovereigns from significant years are in a league entirely of their own. The premium is not a cost. The premium is the point. Because when gold hits $15,000, that premium is what turns your investment into something extraordinary. Right. Let us bring this together. Gold sovereigns are not just the most beautiful gold coins Britain has ever produced. They are CGT exempt for UK investors. They are universally recognized around the world. They carry 200 years of British history in their design and their story. And certain rare sovereigns, the Victoria, Young Head Colonial mint marks, the Edward VII Ottawa issues, the George V. Keyed 8s, the proof strikes from coronation years are outperforming the gold market itself as prices climb toward $15,000 per ounce. The Victoria series, the Edward VII series, the George V series, the proof and specimen strikes. These are the sovereigns to know. These are the sovereigns to look for. And the window to acquire them at today's prices is not going to stay open forever. If this video was useful to you, and I genuinely hope it was, please give it a thumbs up. It helps this channel reach more British collectors and investors who need this information. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next video. Drop a comment below. Tell me, do you own any rare sovereigns? Are you just getting started? Or did you inherit some old coins and want to know what you have got? I read every comment and I love hearing from the British collecting community. Until next time, keep hunting, stay sharp, and may your next sovereign be a rare one. Cheers.